even if they don't add another player, it's a successful window, hands down. Like, I don't think any of us expected that we were going to get a designated player 10, a TAM winger, a designated player striker all in this window. So I think it's successful regardless.
I mean, we shot the moon here. Like, this was not promised to us. Which is great, because I'd rather be surprised like this than be hopeful for something like this and then let the hell down.
Sure. 100%.
Thanks for listening to KC Sports Network, proudly presented by Emprise Bank. If you're thinking about starting a business or know someone who is, check out Emprise Bank's SBA loans. It's always good to know your options, and they can be your partner in possible.
What's going on, my friends, and welcome back to another episode of No Other Pod. I'm Jimmy, along with my good buddy Daniel Kooser. Dan, you're in the recliner. You are in full recovery mode, my friend. How are you feeling?
Has anyone been more comfy in a podcast recording than I am right now?
I don't know.
Bro, I've got my legs propped up on a little wedge pillow. I got a little ice pack here. I got a little pillow on my lap in case the puppies decide to jump up on me at some point. Life is good, my friend.
That's true. Yeah, you're the bionic man now, as we've talked about leading up to this episode.
I know, man. I got implants now. I can say I have implants. It's weird.
So can you, I mean, you're still in like just a few days off the surgery, I guess, but like, does it feel different walking around? Like, can you tell?
I'm pretty swollen right now. So I'm on a walker. Very much, I had both of them done. Yeah. So it's, if it was one that was done, I'd have a strong leg to help me, but I didn't have a strong leg to begin with. So here we are, man.
Cool. Do you know, like, when the swelling goes down, like, will it feel any different having like the replace? I don't know what they tell you in advance, right?
I couldn't tell you. I mean, everyone's different, right? So
yeah,
it could be like maybe I just rock PT and I just feel normal. But I can tell you one thing: some of the exercises that I was doing post-op or pre-op, they just little things like squeezing your quads or squeezing your glutes while just laying down was the most painful thing in the world to me. Well, I did a lot of that today in physical therapy, and it was pain-free. And I just thought that was the wildest thing. It was like emotional. I didn't know how to feel.
I mean, if not that you probably needed that validation, but like if there was any question of like, was this the right thing or not, I'm sure that just erased any doubt whatsoever.
Yeah. I mean, I told you they got in there and scraped out a bunch of other stuff they didn't even know was there.
That's crazy, man. Well, I'm glad you did it. I'm glad you're feeling well. We did not. Our producer Nick wanted us to make sure we said we did not force Dan to do this tonight. We asked him, we're like, hey, we can do it another day or what? And he was like, let's do it. He's a tough guy.
I'll blink twice so y'all know I'm okay. I'm fine.
Yeah, we have. I was joking that we have Marissa right off camera with the whip, just ready to keep him in line in case he tries to get away. But no, he's a trooper.
There's enough ice and enough drugs for everything. So
that's true.
Life is good, man. I feel like a big old lasagna noodle. We're good to go.
Well, and if anything, you know what? Maybe you picked a good week to sort of just have to settle into the house and rest and recover, because it's going to be miserable outside in the coming.
Look, I was worried. Days. I didn't know if I'd get to come home Sunday night. I was like, they wanted me to go upstairs before going home, and I was like, I do not want to attempt stairs right now. A little worried about that. Mm-hmm. And I did it, and it sucked, but here we are. Now we're home.
Well, I'm glad you made it home, because it would suck to be stuck in a hospital in the middle of a sub-zero snowstorm.
Dude, I had to get home. If anyone works in a hospital cafetorium or whatever, or a kitchen, I'm so sorry, but you all suck. Like they're not good, bro. They don't seem to really care about anybody. They're like, oh, so you're on a vegan diet? We got you. And the first night they call me and they're like, well, we could get you some lemon meringue pie. Oh, no, that's not vegan. And they just keep offering non-vegan things. And then the next morning, bacon and eggs came to my room, and I was like, what is happening? So they place a new order, and it never comes. So I call to place my order of tofu scramble, which probably would have tasted like cardboard anyway, because they don't make it like I make it. And they go, well, we can't do that now because breakfast is over. And I'm like, well, breakfast wouldn't have been over if you would have just brought my shit.
I'll say y'all fucked up. So get it
Here's the
together.
lucky thing. I made meals ahead of time. I had shit at home in my fridge. Marissa just had to deliver. Life was good.
That's wild to me though, because you would think like I wouldn't expect it to be tasty per se, but you would think that in a hospital, because some people choose to be vegan or have certain dietary restrictions by choice, and that's fine. Other people choose to be vegan or have certain dietary restrictions for literal like health and medical reasons and allergies.
Yeah.
And so you would think that of all places, a hospital would pay special attention to what are your special dietary needs so we don't accidentally kill you.
I ordered a bagel. I got an English muffin. I ordered diced pineapple. I got diced pear. I ordered diced potatoes. I got French fries. I was like, what is happening? It made no sense.
Oh man. Well,
So I'm happy to
smart
be
that
home. Absolutely.
I was gonna say it's smart that you brought some stuff because I don't know that I would have thought of that. But
Not as if I was hungry. I mean, no one's hungry after surgery. It's crazy.
Sure. Well, I've only had, I think one surgery in my adult life, and like, yeah, I didn't really want to eat anything. Like, I would like, chew on some popsicles or maybe eat a little bit of like vanilla ice cream or whatnot. But that was about as much as my appetite could go. So
also, shout out to the nurse's assistant that's just like kept saying, "Oh, I can't believe you did 2 hips at once," and I'm just like, "Shut the hell up! You don't got to make me like feel a certain way. Like I'm dying here, lady."
yeah, but you know what? You're probably going to be glad later that you don't have to
I
go through
definitely
this
will.
twice.
100%. But she just kept being like, "That's just crazy." Okay, stop calling me crazy. Number one. Number two, get out of my room. I'm trying to sleep.
That's the thing. Like when something, terrible happens to people and like people are trying to be nice, but like, oh, it must be so hard. It's just, it's so tough that you're going through that. And it's like, yep, you don't have to keep reminding me how shitty what's happening to me is. So
yeah, not at all. Just be there for me. It's not even a big deal.
yeah, but we're glad that you're on the road to recovery and feeling good.
So, and I will not be at that 5-degree Sporting KC game. I can tell you that.
As of now, I plan to be there.
You're gonna go.
My plan is to go. I have a dog sitter who I trust, who will be able to watch my dog, who is also on the mend from surgery, a much less intense surgery than yours, but
yeah, am I tougher than your dog? Absolutely.
You're not wearing the cone though, so would have been hilarious.
I don't need one.
If you hopped on and just were wearing a cone, just we didn't address it.
Yeah, I got problems with biting my injuries,
with licking your hip.
Oh my gosh.
I'm gonna try to go. So we'll see.
That's cool, man. But I'm gonna watch it and shiver in your honor.
Yeah, we'll talk about that game here in just a little bit. But I guess before we get to that game, we should mention, just because it technically happened since the last time we recorded a podcast, that Sporting KC did wrap up their preseason. It was a scoreless draw with Las Vegas Lights. Again, in terms of the lineup, it was a mishmash of presumptive starters, a couple of them, but then, really only, Jolic, Shallowy, Radia, and Pulskamp, probably. The rest of them, Jan Jurčić, Jansen Miller, Robert Volader, Tim Leibold, Jacob Bartlett, Memo Rodriguez, Steven Afrifa, probably not the starters. And so it's a 0-0 draw. Again, it is what it is. Can't take much from the preseason, but the preseason is done. So
it's done. And I'm thankful for that, because I was getting a little tired of everyone getting mad that we're not scoring goals in the preseason. Like, it's fine. It's whatever. Hopefully they're just saving it all for meaningful games.
I had a little bit of an exchange. It was a friendly exchange with some people online, but I was, talking about some of the ways that I'm cautiously optimistic for the year. And I got a couple of replies were like, well, it's going to take a lot based on if the preseason has anything to do with it. And I was like, it's not really, guys. Like, yeah, don't look at those lineups. Look at, Shapi Suleimanov and Mano Garcia, like, just got here. Like, they haven't had any time with the team. Jovic had 2 games with the team, barely. Like, it's going to be okay. So,
I got to tell you, I don't think I would judge any of these Champions Cup games either.
No, and so that's going to be interesting because we'll obviously talk about that. It's a weird way in a lot of ways to start the competitive season for Sporting Kansas City. The fact that we're even in the Champions Cup, but also that it's going to be arguably, possibly the coldest game that they've ever played in, maybe rivaling that 2013 MLS Cup against potentially Lionel Messi if he plays. Like it's weird all around. Whew. So, but what is possible and what we're probably going to see is this will be the first game that Sporting Kansas City will be wearing their new 1KC kit that they launched.
We seen
on Valentine's Day. And I have to say, I think I kind of like it a lot.
You're liking it, huh?
I think it's grown on me, and it's grown on me quite a bit.
Well, people are kind of comparing it to the old, by the way, if you see my camera shake, it's because, I'm going to shift. I'm going to shift my hips here.
You're allowed to do that.
Anyone on YouTube's like, what's this guy doing? Making me sick. But it kind of reminds me of like those tire track ones. Remember those?
It does. I've seen people say it looks, I've heard people call it the comb jersey. I've heard people say it the tire track. Now here's, I think, a detail that I didn't notice that I really appreciate, but I did not notice in the leaked image because it's obviously lower quality, that once you see in the actual official photos, it's the state line angle. And that's kind of cool if combine the hoops with the state line because it's got the vertical sort of comb line, if you will, but then it's got the angle of the Kansas, Missouri state line. And that's what makes up sort of that sort of interesting crisscross pattern in each of the hoops. And I don't know, man, I kind of dig it. And sort of the, I don't know what you call it, but sort of the cresting shape that sort of is going along the sides of the shirt continues down into the shorts, which makes it look a little bit better for me too. It sort of flows a little bit more. And also if you look at this, I mean, this happens every year. You look at the marketing photos of these full kits on professional soccer players. They look great. It's going to look a lot better when they're in the full kit than it is me just wearing the shirt.
I always try to reserve judgment until I see it like on the actual field during an actual game. So we'll see that real soon.
But I think it's just, it's clear now over the past, 3 primary kits that Sporting has decided that hoops are going to be their signature design language in one way or another for the primary kit. We've had hoops before, sometimes primary, sometimes secondary, but this is 3 straight primary kits where it's been hoops. So you got to find creative ways to do the hoops somehow. So I appreciate that they tried something different, and I do think it looks cool.
Yeah.
So I'll buy one. Who are we kidding? I'm always going to buy one. It's annoying. This is one where, I think I said the last 2 years I didn't buy one because I was given, I got lucky and was given a replica version of the one I didn't have in the media game. But this is one I like enough that I think I'm actually going to purchase. So
all right,
we'll see. But I don't know. I just thought it was cool. So
yeah.
Let's go ahead and take our break real quick. And then when we come back, we'll talk on a couple quotes from Media Day and we'll talk Miami. But we'll be right back.
Looking for tickets for your next event? Tickets for Less is your #1 source. Save big on every purchase when you use promo code KCSN at ticketsforless.com.
So, that anesthesia's a bitch, huh?
This was your first surgery, right?
Yeah, I've never had one, man.
So what was it like for you? Did you translate it like when you went into the surgery room, or how did it go for you?
It wasn't even like that. Like, I didn't get a countdown. I didn't get nothing. I mean, he was just like, he just goes, all right, man, start thinking about what you want to dream about. He was like, are you on an island swinging from trees? And I was like, what? I don't want to swing from trees. And then I was just gone.
Did he put a mask on you?
There was a little mask on me, yeah.
Yeah.
And then I was waking up just feeling like I got hit by a bus.
Yeah, that's my least favorite part of surgery is, I've had one actual surgery, and then I had some anesthesia when I had one of my wisdom teeth out in college, and that one was a little bit less intense. But I feel like, at least for me, the worst thing about coming out of anesthesia is I feel like you wake up and fall back to sleep like 27 times.
Well, I had wisdom teeth out, but I don't really count that, I guess.
No.
This was crazy. I remember I woke up to people wheeling me down a hallway and getting me on an X-ray table and stuff. And I remember they pushed me over there, and my new hip like made a popping sound, and I was like, God damn it. But that was all a distant memory after that, the events of that day. So,
Well, yeah, well on your way. I just remember getting wheeled into an operating room for my actual surgery. Everything was like white and sterile. And then they're like, okay, count down from 10. And I think in my mind, I was like 10, 9. And before I got to 8, I was out.
so you're like, then 9 days, everything about what they do. It's wild, man. You didn't want to see my old bones. I was trying to send you my bones, and you were like, no, thank you.
You were willing to show us. I have a thing. I don't know. As I've gotten older, because I used to watch, like when I was a kid, I used to watch Animal Planet, and there was a show called Emergency Vets, and they're just like full on showing surgeries of animals, and it did not bother me. Something has happened as I've gotten older, and like
Yeah.
it took. I had to get over it even for my dog surgery because they're like, you're gonna have to check the incision at least once a day, and I was like, I don't want to. I was like, well, I have to. Like, I'm the only one who can. So,
Right.
but yeah, it's. I'm glad that you are you're on the mend. So
Yeah,
and you have soccer to.
I sent him to Nick. Nick got a picture of my bones, so he's all good.
You did. Okay.
Yeah.
You sent me the X-ray where I saw your bionic hips. That was fun.
Yes. I wouldn't let you see my pee-pee though. I had a big old star there, so you couldn't see that.
Is that what that was? I wasn't sure. I
Put a star there.
That makes.
Let's be honest.
It
could have been a little smaller. I was, maybe a little
fucking
huge star. Didn't have to be that big. I'm not that full of myself, so could have been a little smaller of a star.
I don't know why that didn't click. That's what you were doing. It makes sense, but I like in my mind, I just didn't even question it. Like I was just looking at the hips, and I was like, oh wow, look how they're situated. Like I wonder what the process was.
Not trying to send dick pics to my friend. All right.
Yeah. Well, I mean, to your credit, you asked for consent first, so
yeah, and it's true.
I give you permission. But what we were not able to go to on Friday while you were having your surgery and I was taking care of my dog is there was a Sporting KC Media Day. And so, we've tried to go before and it's always a fun time. You get to interview a lot of players and unfortunately we were not able to go, but there were some interesting quotes that came out of it that, nothing terribly, revelatory, I would say, but one thing I thought was interesting was Dejan Jovic. He made it sound like it was really his choice whether he wanted to go play for Tigres or come play for Sporting Kansas City. And apparently he decided that he preferred to play in Kansas City than go play for Tigres, which is pretty cool because Tigres is obviously a very prestigious, well-known Mexican club. But he said, quote, I knew the coach before I came here. I met all the players. I knew them even before I played many times against them. I like the idea. I like the project. I think this team can be successful in the next few months here. And then he went on to go say, I hated to come here and play against Sporting. The fans are great at pushing the team. So I just think it's, especially we've talked about before, how sometimes it's hard to recruit players to come play in Kansas City compared to LA where he was playing or Miami or New York. But I think it's kind of cool that he chose over a prestigious Mexican team where he could have been a star in Mexico, that he wanted to stay in MLS and come play for SKC. So that's a good sign for things to come, hopefully in the future.
Yeah, 100%. You always wonder how much of that is like lip service to, like, yeah, you're going to say the right stuff when you're in the place that you are. Like, it is what it is. And it could have been like, actually, I'm going to be like the guy at Sporting Kansas City. I might not have been the guy in Mexico. So,
right.
Yeah.
No. I think that's fair. I mean, he's obviously familiar with MLS and he's had some success in MLS, especially last year. He did say of his style, he said, quote, I'm not the guy who's going to dribble past 3 or 4 guys and score. I need guys who are going to feed me. But if they bring me the ball, if I have crosses, if they bring me the ball in the box, I'm sure I'm going to score.
I'm looking forward to that because William Agata had guys that would feed him and he would just racket them off the post. So I'm excited because I think we do have guys that can feed him.
Yeah, for sure. It's funny you mentioned that because I went on our buddy Bob from I-80 Sports, we've gone on his like season preview before. He had me on it over the weekend while you were recovering
Son of a bitch.
from surgery, and so he was talking about how one of the questions he had is, does Sporting really need Jovic with William Agata? And if you look at some of the advanced stats from William Agata, he's pretty high up there. And what I told him, at least my perspective, so I'm curious your thoughts too, is I was like, this is where I think you kind of have to marry art and science when it comes to advanced stats. Because yes, if you look at the advanced stats for William Agata, his XG, his G plus, whatever, it's like just as good as Jovic, and he's a lot cheaper. But I was like, but I can't tell you how many times Agata was in position to score and he somehow banged it off the post like 2, 3, 4 times a game sometimes. Like there's something where he gets in dangerous spots, but I feel like he's still not quite there all the time in terms of actually getting it in the net. As much as he does score, I think it's just because he was always in the right positions, which is good, but there's still something for him to work on in terms of actual finishing. So that's where I think Peter's probably like, we have Agata, that's good, but we also have a guy like Jovic who's definitely been able to do it. So it's better to have options, I think. I don't know what you think.
Yeah, good point. No, great point. When'd you go on there? Like Saturday or something?
I think it was actually late Thursday, so it might have been the night before your surgery. You prepped, but it came out Friday while you were in surgery. I don't know. I don't remember.
Right on. I'm not.
What is?
I'm mad at you. I'll be fine.
It's okay.
I'll get over it.
Speaking of people who need to feed Jovic, Manu Garcia, he was also introduced at Media Day. He was there, the new designated player number 10, and this part, we talked about this a little bit last week too, but it's also interesting to hear it come from his mouth himself, because Peter talked about how the importance of Mike Burns going over there to get the deal done. But Manu himself said that the conversation that convinced him to come to Sporting was Mike Burns going over. He said, quote, "That was when it really clicked. And I said, this is the place for me, the perfect place for me. I'm really glad that he came over and showed me that interest because it made it so easy for me." So,
love that.
It's just for the people who are like, put your money where your mouth is, not trying to get all hopeful. They're doing the right things. It's what you got to do to rebuild a team.
Yeah. I mean, these are the things that need to be done, and we're doing it. And that feels pretty good. I'm trying to, try not to get too excited before we see what transpires out there, but like we are doing the right stuff.
Yeah. And, they've talked about how, Burns said, we certainly will add players in this window if we feel they're appropriate. I feel like we've addressed attacking positions with Dion, Manu, and Shoppy. We could look to add someone in the midfield. We could look to add someone in the defense. I also want to be clear, we haven't fully decided on which model to go with. If we go with the 3 designated player and 3 U22 player model, or the 2 designated player and 4 U22 player model. The great thing is, where we sit right now, we have the flexibility to do either. We do have targets. We do have players that we're looking at right now. Nothing is finalized, but we are still looking to add during this window. So there could be more.
There could be more.
We'll see.
Yeah.
Nothing's promised. I mean, if you would have, even if they don't add another player, it's a successful window, hands down. Like, I don't think any of us expected that we were going to get a designated player 10, a TAM winger, a designated player striker all in this window. So I think it's successful regardless.
I mean, we shot the moon here. Like this was not promised to us. Which is great, because I'd rather be surprised like this than be hopeful for something like this and then let the hell down.
Sure, 100%. The last thing I want to mention from Media Day is Peter Vermees was asked about naming a captain, and he said, quote, "I'm not ready to make that announcement today. I think there are some guys within the team that have stepped up." So do you have any theories as to, or if it were up to you, at least knowing what we knew from last year and years past, do you have anybody that you think might be the odds-on favorite to be the captain this year?
Well, I mean, Eric Tommy feels like a good bet, in my opinion. Daniel Shallowy is up there as well. So those are the top 2 that come to mind.
Yeah, I think those are for sure probably the 2 most realistic options. Jake Davis crossed my mind potentially in the midfield. He's a younger guy. He's probably a year or 2 away in terms of like age that you typically see, at least for a captain. But he was also the MVP last year, so I'm not ruling it out. Eric Tommy, I agree, is probably the odds-on favorite. It could be Shallowy, but I was, telling Bob that I also think Shallowy is an interesting one to watch because Shallowy, his last couple of years, it's not been peak Daniel. And, Daniel's no Daniels, and maybe that's why he's got that mustache that he's trying to, sort of reshape his vibe this year. But you have a tam winger like Shapi Suleimanov sitting there in the wing. Daniel's got to hit the ground running. Otherwise, he might have a guy breathing down his neck to take his spot.
Oh, yeah. I mean, it seems like there's a lot of neck breathers on this team, man. Like, there's some guys chomping to play.
Yeah, for sure. The team did sign Jansen Miller in this last week. They teased it, and we were like, oh, who is this? And, what's it going to be? And then it was the super draft pick, so people were...
That was crazy, by the way. I couldn't believe that. I was like, oh, here's a random post from Sporting. What are they teasing? And it was just that they signed a super draft pick. They've never done something like that, dude. They've never buried the lead like that.
No, it was a little over the top, I think.
Yeah. I mean, and then I'm like, okay, should I be super impressed by this super draft pick? Like, I wasn't understanding.
I mean, he's playing well, but I mean, he, depending on injuries, he might start on Wednesday against Miami, which is crazy. But we'll see. But speaking of Wednesday, yes, game officially postponed, probably due to snow. The temperatures are going to be arguably colder.
Aren't they saying like 5 inches of snow or something?
There's depending on where in the metro you are, they're saying if you're north of I-70, the last report I saw, it could be, 2 to 4 inches. If you're south of I-70, it could be 3 to 6 inches. But I guess the storm over the last couple of days has been kind of slowly ticking southward.
But it's going to be colder on Wednesday?
Yes.
I feel like I'd rather play in less cold snow than just straight cold.
I mean, when I say colder, I mean, both days it's going to be sub-zero. So
I mean, we're screwed. This is going to be some serious shit.
Yeah, it's not like, if I am looking at...
you can get a ticket for like $20-some right now.
I'm going to say, if you want to see Messi, this is probably the cheapest way you're going to see Messi if he plays.
If you see him, yeah.
If he plays. But, I mean, if you look at sort of the 10-day forecast for Kansas City, Kansas, Tuesday says the high is 4, low is -3. Wednesday, the high is 8, but the low is -11. So, regardless of whether it's -3 or -5 or -7 at kickoff, whatever it is, I mean, it's going to be cold as balls.
Yeah, it all just sucks, man. That doesn't sound fun at all.
No, so I think they moved it thinking that it's not going to be safe for people to get there or get back.
And can you believe there's serious conversation about moving the soccer calendar to match up with the international calendar? Like, what is that about? We can't do that.
It is funny. I saw someone post earlier today. They were like, it's pretty hilarious that like this is the first offseason where MLS is sort of like in earnest talked about matching the European calendar, and then the first game that's supposed to be played is in -degrees and up to 6 inches of snow.
Yeah. Do they like forget that there is a Kansas team? Dude, my laptop's like slanting here. It is crazy. Like I'm on a pillow and I'm trying to make it right, and my eyes aren't that open because I'm on tramadol. It's just a crazy experience I'm having with y'all tonight. We're good.
That's okay.
God.
But yeah, I don't know. I think it's what's so interesting too, and I'm like, I guess it could, hindsight's 2020, it could have just as easily been that the weather would be flipped for this week and next week, but we're playing here in Kansas City this week and in Miami next week. Well, you look at the forecast for Kansas City on Tuesday of next week, it's a high of like 64 degrees. It would have been...
They could have just flipped the dates.
If you just would have had the first game in Miami from the get-go and the second game in Kansas City, that probably would have made more sense anyway, because it would have been given at least another week to try to warm up.
Why didn't they just agree to do that?
I mean, I don't know by the time. So my understanding is CONCACAF does not have processes for cold weather. Like there is no like minimum temperature at which it's deemed safe to play. They like
right.
Most leagues have their threshold for games that are too hot where you need water breaks. But CONCACAF they have no policy or procedure for this. And Sporting KC as a club, as recently as Sunday, was saying this game's going to go on because that's what they're hearing for CONCACAF.
Will they even have like industrial heaters on the field like they do in like NFL games?
I don't know what they're going to do. I do know that the heating system under the field is better than it was in 2013.
Sure.
I'm seeing a lot of fans talking about if you're going to be at the game, bring cardboard to stand on because they say that acts as like an insulator between like the freezing ground. I've never been at a game that cold, so I've never done that, but a lot of fans swear by it. So take that as you will.
Oh my God.
So I don't know if I'm going to be inside the press box or outside. I mean, for a lot of these games,
you'll be inside because no one else will be there, so there'll be room inside.
Well, what I'm not sure about is when all these TV stations typically come, especially when there's somebody like Messi who might play, they get all the inside seats.
No, you're right.
So it might be Chad and I freezing our asses off outside together. We're gonna have to spoon and warm.
Are you okay?
But
you gotta do what you gotta do. No judgment. Warm.
He does. No, I don't. I'm gonna be free. I'm not gonna be tweeting or anything necessarily mid game if it's that cold because I'm gonna have gloves on and just trying to stay warm. So we'll see.
Oh yeah, you have a few pairs.
Right, but the Inter Miami coach, says that Messi will play. Javier Mascherano, he was asked. He said, "quote Messi is 100% available. I can assure that he will play." That came after Franco Panzio, who is a reporter that covers Inter Miami, said that he had been hearing that Messi did not want to play in the cold weather. So the coach said he's going to play.
Like, you're playing, bro.
Well, yeah, but look, if you're Lionel Messi and you're like, that's all well and good, but no.
You're like, I'd rather not, actually. Actually, I'm not getting off the damn bus.
Right. I'm not going to play. Then what are you going to do, suspend Lionel Messi? Okay.
Right. I'm not leaving the hotel, man. You want to suspend me? That's fine.
Yeah. Eric Tommy was asked about playing in the cold temperatures, and he says, if you move around, it's going to be warm, and if you win, it's going to be much warmer than you expect.
Eric, you are the love of my life. I love that he says stuff like this.
He's just so funny. And he does it with his like serious German accent.
Of course he does. I'm just glad he doesn't greet people like Elon Musk does.
Okay. But overall, I think let's be honest. Especially if Messi plays, is there anybody that expects Sporting Kansas City to win this game? Probably
Dude,
not.
You can't make a real prediction when it's, negative some degrees out. You can't.
That's the thing that's giving me pause.
Yeah, it's not real. It's not a real game.
Luis Suarez, his old ass isn't used to playing in -4-degree weather.
No. We might win. We might screw around and win or get a draw. What happens if it gets a draw? Does it go to
I don't think so, no, because it's a two-leg series. It's aggregate, and away goals count, I'm pretty sure, in Champions Cup. So
good grief. Okay, if we don't score at least one goal, then I think we're going to lose this series.
We have to score at least one goal. And if we can somehow hold them to 0 goals, that's huge because then we have an advantage going on the road for the second game because if we steal 1 goal, it counts for 2.
Yeah, for sure.
Keeping them to this could be the most boring 0-0 draw, and I'd be okay with it because then for every goal we score down there, they have to score 2. So
yeah,
it's roughly doesn't exactly work out that way, but
right,
you know what I mean. I don't know. It'll be interesting. We'll see. I don't know how it's going to go or not. Last time they played each other, it was obviously last year at Arrowhead Stadium, and it was a 3-2 win for Inter Miami, thanks to Messi, Luis Suarez, and Diego Gomez.
Crazy game.
Eric Tommy had 2 goals to his own right, so we'll see. But there's a second game this week for Sporting Kansas City. It's not just Inter Miami, because on Saturday we have our MLS opener against Austin.
The season's here, dude. You're like, okay, so Champions Cup kicks off a little early. Well, so does the whole MLS season. So here we go.
Yep. We've got all the MLS team by team season previews that are dropping. You go on MLSsoccer.com right now, and they're talking about key departures, key signings for Sporting, strengths, weaknesses, etc. Excuse me, just sneezed. I'm getting so excited about MLS or the MLS Major League Soccer. They had, let's see here, there's like 9 different people that made predictions for where Sporting KC is going to finish in the Western Conference. What do you think of the 15 teams? What do you think is the highest prediction, and what do you think is the lowest prediction of the 9 experts that think Sporting KC is going to finish in the West?
Well, I'm sure someone picked us to finish last.
Matthew Doyle.
Okay. And I'm pretty sure someone probably picked us upper mid, like 6.
Kalen Kyle picked us 6th. So did Bradley Wright Phillips.
Those are just guess the shit out of this?
Almost.
Oh.
Ozzy Alonso, if you remember him,
Okay.
the Seattle Sounders and Minnesota United, he now works for Major League Soccer. He has predicted Sporting Kansas City, assuming this is not a typo, to finish 3rd in the Western Conference.
Hold on. Who does he know us at all?
I don't know if he thinks he's still playing, Sporting KC from 6 years ago or what, but
Ozzy, why do you think this, sir? What are your facts?
I don't know. Like, there's a part of me that thinks somebody messed up and they meant to take 13th and they just forgot the 1.
But they forgot the 1 or forgot to connect the 3 into like an 8.
But they put 3rd with the RD typed out. So like it doesn't say like 3TH, like 13th would if they forgot the 1. Yeah. So Ozzy Alonso thinks we're anywhere from 3rd to 15th. But of the 9 people, we have 3rd, 15th, 13th, 8th, 11th, 14th, 6th, 12th, and 6th. So
if we were to finish 3rd, then Ozzy Alonso is the smartest man in that room.
Absolute genius.
Yeah.
So I don't think we'll finish 15th. I think Doyle is being a little harsh.
A little mean there, Matthew.
Yeah. I think 6th realistically is best case scenario for us this season.
Sure.
I think 8th is very reasonable. Michel Giannone, he's the one who chose us to be an 8th. So we'll see. That seems reasonable to me. But Austin, they have a number of players that Sporting KC are going to be very familiar with, including none other than Ilie Sanchez, who signed with Austin this offseason.
That's right.
So he will be there. Brandon Vasquez, who's a U.S. men's national team striker, he's there. So Brad Stuver, obviously their goalkeeper. They are seemingly much more a middle of the pack team in the Western Conference, at least according to the analyst predictions. Most have them anywhere like 6th to 9th. There's a couple that are a little bit of outliers. Dax McCarty has them 4th. Kalen Kyle has them 11th. Bradley Wright Phillips has them 14th. But most people seem to think they're sort of like a low-end playoff team. And most people seem to think we're sort of just on the outside of the playoffs. But, it's going to be on the road in Austin. It's probably going to be warmer than it was here in Kansas City. So this is not the same team that we've faced before because they have had some key departures. Sebastian Driussi, their star midfielder, he was transferred out to River Plate. He's gone. Alex Ring, he's gone. Jossie Zardes, he's gone. So
where'd Zardes go? I missed that.
He was waived.
Oh, okay.
Is he on a team right now?
Fair enough.
He might not be on a team currently. I don't think he's signed anywhere.
Okay. A lot of those things happen. I don't always see them right off the bat,
Yeah. So, I don't know. But it'll be interesting now that we have one less day of rest between this freezing game Wednesday night and Austin on Saturday.
Yeah.
But it should be interesting. Look, if we can go on the road in Austin and get a draw, especially after playing against Miami on Wednesday, and there's another game against Miami next week, and that's really all that I can ask for, I think, out of Saturday. I don't expect us to go on the road and win in Austin. We can follow it up next week with the home opener against San Jose on March 1st. But now let me ask you this. If you could if you could choose between somehow beating Miami over this 2-game series and advancing, or we beat Austin on the road and get a full 3 points in our first MLS regular season game, which of those would you choose?
No brainer. I'd like to advance over Miami.
You would? Okay.
I mean, I would take 2 positive results over 1 for 1.
No, I get that.
Absolutely.
The reason that it gave me pause is because like, well, I mean, it'd be fun and it'd be nice to be able to say we beat Miami. But we're probably not going to win Champions Cup, and 3 points right off the bat would go a long way to
Sure.
having good morale for MLS.
But it's more games you get to play in another competition.
Sure. So a totally fair answer. I mean, anytime you can beat Lionel Messi in Miami, I think that's something that is exciting and you want to do.
Yeah.
So, for what it's worth on aggregate, the MLS analysts, according to the 2025 MLS predictions, it says Austin is projected to finish 6th in the Western Conference, and they have Sporting KC finishing 12th. The only teams that are behind Sporting KC are FC Dallas, the Vancouver Whitecaps, and San Diego FC. The new
Really cool.
So, but it doesn't take much to, St. Louis is not going to be all that great this year. Portland Timbers, they transferred out of Vander, Colorado Rapids. So, I mean, it's not going to be all that challenging necessarily to jump some of those teams. So.
Yeah, very true.
That's about all that we have this week, I think, for our good listeners. I mean, next week we'll have 2 games to break down, an actual real life Sporting Kansas City soccer, assuming I don't freeze to death at this game Wednesday night. But
sounds about right, man. You're very close to losing me to a painkiller nap, but I gotta tell you, the Friday is the debut of that MLS docuseries on Apple TV.
Yep, that's true. And that's a great reminder. If you're a T-Mobile customer and you're listening to this on Tuesday, get your free MLS season pass.
Yeah,
it's today. So, but yeah, no, the docuseries will be good.
I think so. I'm excited for it. I'm excited to nerd out a little bit and see what they put together for us.
Awesome. Well, thank you all so much for listening. Thanks to Dan for powering through this. I don't think I would have been able to do it in your position, so that's awesome.
You would have done it. The hips aren't even bad, dude. They say knees are way worse.
Hips don't lie. Anyway, thank you all. Side note, by the way, when I saw Shakira at the Grammys, all I could think of was, I don't understand how PK cheated on her. So I was like, holy shit.
Jesus Christ.
But anyway, thank you all so much for listening. Make sure you follow us on all platforms, at NoOtherPod, at Dan Kooser, at JTMac03. Leave us that 5-star rating and review. Tell us if you're going to, or if you're listening to this after the game against Miami, how did you stay warm? Are you alive? Did you get hypothermia? Make sure you check us out on YouTube, KCSN Soccer, or via the Kansas City Sports Network app, or you can shoot us an email, nootherpod@gmail.com. But until next time, he's Nan, I'm Jimmy. We'll catch y'all later. See ya.
Stay warm, babies.